Welcome back to the channel. It's been a while, but today we're going to be doing the MMA villains tier list. Might see some familiar faces on there, but the first one we're going to go to is TJ Dillashaw. Everybody knows the story of Dillashaw by now. Had a falling out with Alpha Male when his loyalty came into question. Conor McGregor famously called him out on the set of The Ultimate Fighter.
There's a little snake in the grass right there.
Which TJ seemed to run with, even when reports came out of him injuring his former teammate Chris Holdsworth with illegal knees in training, or that he did steroids.
Yeah, it's on everything.
TJ?
Yeah, I'm on everything. They test me every day, so I'm on everything.
Funny, you're the one that showed everyone how to do it on Team Alpha Male.
TJ just embraced it, ran with his villain arc, even beat Cody Garbrandt, cementing his victory over his former teammates. But it all turned sour for him when it came time to end the 125-pound division. Henry Cejudo knocked him out. He tested positive for EPO. Everybody confirmed he was a liar, and the rest is history. So for that, I'll put TJ at the top of B tier.
I'm on everything.
Next up, we got B-Shop. Brendan is a controversial figure in the world of mixed martial arts and also comedy. I don't know why, B, but on the set of The Ultimate Fighter, he came off as a cocky asshole, even by MMA fighter standards.
I just go out there and do what I do best, and that's fighting.
Then he lost to Roy Nelson, and he kept talking shit, and people still didn't like him. And then he got knocked out by Big Nog in Brazil, which was an all-time great moment. But he knocked out Crow Cop. I mean, that's one of the main reasons I didn't like him. All things considered, back then, Brendan wasn't so bad. If you listen to him speak, he just sounds like a confident guy trying to make his way in the sport. I even rooted for him when he was beefing with Dana over the sponsorship deal. And I rooted for him when he was beefing with Travis Brown over the Ronda Rousey thing. But somehow, over time, Schaub just got worse and worse. Brendan had that awful grappling match with Cyborg Abreu back in the day. He bullied Ariel Helwani. He got the subreddit MMA stream shut down. Talks trash about fighters on his podcast and sucks up to them in person when he's eating tacos with them. And I mean, guys, he knocked out Crow Cop. But all things considered, I don't know if Brendan's that bad of a guy. It's mostly the CTE, B. Okay, next up we have Alexander Milianenko, the scary younger brother of Fedor Emelianenko. There was always the rumor he was connected to the Russian mafia. Look at those beautiful tattoos. He was found guilty of assaulting his housekeeper. So, yeah, this guy. You just gotta look at him to tell he's a supervillain. Next up, we have Brock Lesnar, the former WWE superstar. Made a splash in the MMA world. He joined the UFC, and from the start, he had an attitude. People didn't really like him because he was a WWE guy. And that was his whole thing, was being a heel. So he kind of brought that over. And that made him a little bit unpopular in the MMA community, who saw him as an outsider.
Give us your thoughts on the fight. I love it! Keep going! Keep going! I love it, man!
Also made some borderline racist comments about eating a big taco and drinking a Corona with Cain Velasquez. And then on his comeback fight after a long hiatus, he won a decision over Mark Hunt, who everybody loves, but tested positive for steroids, which surprised absolutely nobody. Hated Bud Light before it was cool.
That's a Coors Light because Bud Light won't pay me nothing.
Gonna put him in B tier. Alright, Amar Sulowev is next. He's a middleweight fighter who competed in The Ultimate Fighter and Pride and other top promotions. After he retired in 2013, he was accused of being involved in multiple assassinations related to top Russian governmental officials. Very serious allegations, but the case against him was ultimately dropped due to his diagnosis of cancer. So normally I would have put him on A tier, just because Russian assassinations, that's some pretty crazy shit. We'll put him there, but it's a question mark. It's questionable. Because there is a chance this guy was innocent. And if so, what happened to him at the end of his life was extremely sad and unfair. And in that case, he shouldn't even be on this list. Yeah, rest in peace. Alright, number 6 is Ronda Rousey. So, one of the most dominant fighters in the history of the sport. But her behavior outside the cage left a lot to be desired. I mean, people started to dislike Rousey when she refused to shake hands with Miesha Tate after their fight. Her ego was just clearly out of control at some point. She lacked sportsmanship. Her coach, Edmund Tarvarian, also was a point of contention. A lot of people thought he was responsible for her decline. Her bad attitude towards the media after her loss at home didn't gain her any fans either. After suffering another brutal defeat, she completely abandoned the sport and went to WWE.
I think I'd just rather not talk about that right now.
So Ronda was a little cunty, but mostly just competitive, so we'll put her at C.
Can't help but really say that I wonder how Floyd feels being beat by a woman for once.
How about Ronda Rousey? I don't even know who he is.
Frank Shamrock got charged with animal cruelty for leaving his mother's 7-year-old dog tied up in an airport parking lot for 5 days. Luckily, a passerby noticed the dog and called for help. Really disappointed because Frank Shamrock seemed like a decent guy. A tier, that's a solid A tier. Jesus Christ, this guy. Former UFC fighter Abel Trujillo twice pleaded guilty to charges of domestic abuse involving the mother of his children, and in 2020 was found guilty of promoting obscenity to a minor and sexual exploitation of a child after attempting to solicit nudes from an underage girl. Yeah. This guy, super villain. Okay, Greg Hardy. Another valuable member of society, charged with domestic abuse back before he was suspended by the NFL, but eventually the case against him was dismissed. It was also that time he used his inhaler in between rounds.
Can I take my inhaler?
Where is it?
It's in my pocket.
The medical toy?
Yes. Yeah. You sound approved.
Second zone, let's go.
Probably put him at C tier. Yeah. Michael Bisping. Michael Bisping is a great example of a villain that just ends up becoming a hero because everybody loves Michael Bisping. He's a fan favorite, but he was one of the best heels in the middleweight division for a long time. Not like in an evil way. He was just kind of knowingly British, unapologetic and brash, constantly talking shit to everybody.
Always ready. You are a fucking pussy. Look at the state of you. You're a fucking idiot.
Had a couple low points in his career, like that time he spit on Jorge Rivera's corner, man. Over time, everyone just grew to love his perseverance and his snarky wit, and I don't think I've ever cheered louder than when he knocked out Luke Rockhold to win the belt. So, C tier for the count. This one's dark. I don't like talking about this one, so I'm going to make it quick. Joe Sun. Find the UFC and Pride. 0-4 record, by the way. Best known for his role in Austin Powers. But underneath all that, this man was seriously sick. Found guilty of torturing and raping a woman in 2007. And while serving jail time for his crimes, he killed his cellmate. So, yikes, yeah. Jesus. Anyways. Oh boy, I'm gonna get some shit for this one. Matt Hughes. Alright, look, the controversy with Matt Hughes is that he released a book called Made in America, the most dominant champion in UFC history. And according to the book and a review by Sean McCorkle, which I'm basing this whole thing off of, Matt and his brother would beat up their dad, they would threaten their mom, they would kill baby pigs, throw their body parts at friends just because they thought it was funny, some sexual assault allegations in there, and while he was a great fighter and a legend in the sport, he probably shouldn't have released that book. But hey, if anybody's atoned for their sins, it's the guy that got hit by a train, so put Matt Hughes in C tier for now. Colby was a nice and quiet kid until he faced the possibility of being released from his UFC contract, or so the story goes. So he decided to call Brazilians a bunch of dirty animals.
Phil, you're a dog! All you filthy animals suck!
But Fabricio Verdum threw a boomerang at him. Donald Trump invited him to the White House, and just like that, title fights. There's also the whole beef with Jorge Masvidal, his former friend, and Colby refusing to pay his coach. Colby, I'd probably put him in B tier. Okay, and that brings us to the Huntington Beach bad boy Tito Ortiz, mainly disliked because of his general all-around cocky attitude, I guess, and the excuses he always made after his losses. He also had that feud with Chuck Liddell, who everyone loved. So, all in all, Tito's probably just dumb. Former UFC fighter Josh Crispy had first been arrested August 1st and charged for assault and battery on his wife. He posted bail and then the same day assaulted his wife again by punching her and kicking her repeatedly, as well as sending his bull terrier dog who had been trained to attack her after her. So yeah, that's... if you train your dog to attack your wife, that's A tier shit, dude. Lee Murray. One of my favorite stories ever. Guy had a decent career as a middleweight, fought Anderson Silva, Apparently he even knocked out Tito Ortiz in a street fight outside a club. But this guy was always getting into street fight. One time he got stabbed and almost died, so he retired from MMA. And then one day him and 7 of his friends decided that they were going to develop an elaborate plan to impersonate police officers, kidnap a guard, and force him to grant them access into an English repository from which they would then steal $100 million in cash, the largest heist in history still to this day. After fleeing the country, He would buy property in Morocco, spend all sorts of money, even, have this awful mural painted. And eventually he was apprehended, but not before, quote, beating and humiliating members of the security forces who arrested him. And now he's serving 25 years in a Moroccan prison. So, yeah, that's just badass, dude. That's just badass.
This is a wild man. Jason Mayhem Miller.
This one's kind of sad because, I used to love Jason when I started watching the sport. And there was a time when he was just a loud, slightly annoying, but fun host of Bully Beatdown. He would be on the Joe Rogan podcast. He was one of the early guests before it was even popular. And then the crack started to show. And by crack, I mean crack cocaine, because I think this is what he was doing. After his loss to Michael Bisping and his UFC stint ended, things got dark. In 2011, he was charged with assault and false imprisonment. Kept his sister in a headlock at a party and wouldn't let her go. 2014, he live tweeted a standoff with a SWAT team outside his house. In 2017, he pleaded guilty to domestic violence. In 2018, he was charged with vandalism. And in 2021, he was once again arrested for domestic violence. So, talk about mayhem. Gonna have to put him on the A tier. Too much domestic violence, bro. Alright, War Machine. War Machine's a piece of shit. Straight to supervillain. So you guys know, Jonathan Koppenhaver, better known as War Machine, was an MMA fighter who brutally assaulted his ex-girlfriend, almost beat her to death. He is currently serving life in prison. Amar Parhar is one of my favorites, guys. Amar Parhar is. D tier was made for this guy. Notorious for holding on to submissions for too long, Did in the UFC, grappling tournaments, who just destroy people's legs and ruin their careers, He was finally released for refusing to let go of a leg lock against Mike Pierce. Then he went on to do the same thing to other people in other promotions. I don't think this guy is evil. I just think he's really dumb. Amar see ankle. Amar grab ankle. Amar break ankle. But yeah, it's going to be a D tier. D tier for Amar. Everybody used to love Conor. At some point, he made a turn for the worst. Punching an old man in the face. Throwing a dolly through a bus window. Being a prick to his fans. Drunken rants about Khabib's recently deceased father. When you have that much power at your disposal, it's hard to keep everything under control. I'm going to go ahead and put him in B tier. B tier for Conor. Chael Sonnen, the bad guy. This one's obvious. He is the bad guy. There is no question about it. I was just waiting for us to get to this. This is one of my favorites. Vyacheslav Datsik. After starting his MMA career in the mid-90s, Datsik has accumulated several wins inside the cage, including a victory over former UFC champion Andrei Arlovsky. But dude was insane, and it was clear to see in his fights. He got disqualified for grabbing onto a guy's nuts once, another time for eye gouging, and just the sheer level of not giving a fuck was impressive, unheard of. Unfortunately, his MMA career was cut short after he was convicted of multiple armed robberies. He was institutionalized and diagnosed with schizophrenia at that point. Served 9 years in jail. He was released again into the general population, and in 2016 began to raid brothels, stripping women naked and forcing them to walk down the street. Perhaps most weird of all, he recently made a return to boxing, knocking out Bigfoot Silva and fellow felonious countryman, who is on this list, Alexander Milianenko. And I thought about putting Datsik in dumb, but he's got great handwriting, so I'm gonna throw him up there in supervillain. Although some might say he's more of a superhero. That brings up Jon Jones, the ultimate bad boy of the UFC. Jon Jones started out painting himself as a good Christian man, a snitch. Slowly, the true Jones began to show, and his battle with substance abuse and the law began. In 2012, he was arrested for a DUI. In 2015, he was involved in a hit and run. In 2017, he tested positive for anabolic steroids after his fight against Daniel Cormier. In 2021, he was again arrested in Las Vegas for domestic abuse. Everybody knows this one. Jon Jones, he's a troubled guy, a great fighter. I'm going to go ahead and put him in A tier. Put him at the top of A tier. And finally, that brings us to the last man on our list, the big boss himself, Dana White. His stay at the UFC has been marked by numerous controversial incidents. In the early days of the organization, White was involved in a physical altercation with his own mother over a family business dispute. And to this day, the two don't see eye to eye.
Tried to suffocate his own mother.
Maybe you shouldn't spread that rumor.
He was also known to be extremely aggressive and confrontational with UFC employees, including fighters, executives, and journalists.
He wasn't correct. Who the fuck does Ariel Helwani talk to at the UFC? Nobody here's talking to him. You know what I mean?
He's often accused of not looking out for his fighters. He also has a long list of personal controversies. In 2015, White's wife filed for divorce, alleging that White had an affair with a former UFC employee. And most recently, he was caught on video power slapping the shit out of his wife at a New Year's Eve party. So yeah, Dana's pretty solid. He's A tier for sure. I'm gonna put him up there next to Jon Jones. And that's it. With that, we bring to an end the MMA villains tier list. Guys, important to acknowledge, the people are complex and multifaceted. Let's not judge anyone here, even though I just finished judging them for 25 minutes. People can change. This was just for fun. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you did, don't forget to subscribe and like this video. Checkmate MMA signing out. Peace.